We will eventually get to tonight's biggest game, which is number 4 UConn at number 5 Kansas. And I'll definitely get Norlander's thoughts on his first trip to Bud Walton Arena, where Arkansas upset Duke a couple of nights ago. But I want to start with some news connected to a couple of high-profile college freshmen. One of them is Bronny James, the other Mikey Williams. Let's start with Bronny James. He's been medically cleared, Norlander, to resume basketball activities, which is obviously great news for LeBron, for Bronny, and the entire family. This, of course, comes after he earlier this calendar year suffered a cardiac arrest. How big of a deal is this for USC? It's obviously great for Bronny and the family.
Okay, so it's very good. The timing isn't surprising. Because LeBron previously said that Bronny had his last major testing and checkup he had to go through at the end of November. So I was anticipating this would happen at some point at the end of this week or the start of next week. We would at least hopefully get an update, and thankfully we did get an update. Bronny had actually gone through pregame warm-up stuff, just general like layup line stuff, nothing major, with USC, which was another strong indication that we were headed the right way. The question is, how soon will he play? It will be as soon as he is comfortable and the coaching staff is comfortable with allowing that to happen. But as coincidence would have it, we actually have recent precedents with this situation. Obviously, Vince Iwuchukwu, the USC big man who's still on the roster, his exact ailments were not identical to Bronny James, but he did get sidelined because of a heart failure and missed last part of last season. When he was determined or publicly announced to be cleared and good to go, it was all but a few days between that and his actual debut in a USC uniform. So there's a possibility that this could actually be really, really quick. I mean, he's been cleared to go, and it's just a matter of if the conditioning is there and when he can and when Bronny James can participate. Now, the game that he winds up actually doing it, the calculus will change a little bit for USC in terms of the Trojans have received plenty of pub. They've been a little bit of a letdown so far this season. They're 5-2, not a huge one, but just a little one. You know, they dropped the home game to Irvine a few weeks back, and then they couldn't pull out a tight one over Thanksgiving weekend against Oklahoma in that MTE. They play, and we'll get to this later in the show, they play on Saturday against Gonzaga, and that game was organized in no small part because it's in Vegas. I mean, it was supposed to be Bronny James on a good USC team going up against Gonzaga, two projected, extremely relevant West Coast powers for this 23-24 season. I guess we'll wait and see. After this, there's an 8-day break for USC. It's next game because of finals. Doesn't happen until Sunday, December 10th against Long Beach State. And then there's another week after that they'll wait until they play at Auburn. So I'm not a doctor. Obviously, Parrish is. I'll leave that to him. In light of this announcement and seeing what happened with Iwuchukwu last season, but literally earlier this year, that happened in January. I mean, if he's good to go, I'm hoping to see him against Gonzaga, GP. But it's a quick turnaround. I just don't know the conditioning. You would think that maybe Long Beach State might be as long as we have to wait. But it is LeBron James' son. Different factors altogether. What are your thoughts and expectations here moving forward?
I don't think he even tries to play against Gonzaga. My understanding is that he'll watch this weekend. Mm-hmm. And then I would think they'll use that pretty lengthy stretch of days between the Gonzaga game and the Long Beach State game to ramp up. And then I guess I would expect to see him then on December 10th at home against Long Beach State. And looking at the Lakers' schedule, they would be off that day. And that's notable because LeBron James has said if Bronny's first game is on the same day as a Lakers game, he will skip the Lakers game to watch his son's first game at USC in person, which I guess is kind of a minor controversy. How do you feel about that? LeBron James skipping a game to go watch his son play basketball.
Lakers are going to survive. I actually love the move. LeBron haters are going to be out in full force, claiming it's a look at me move. Whatever, man. Your son's about to make his college debut, and he collapsed and had to be rushed to the hospital because of a heart issue earlier this summer. Doctors say he's good to go. LeBron James can miss 3 straight weeks of Lakers games to watch Bronny play for all I care. So I look forward to seeing him on the sideline whenever that winds up being.
Yeah, I think a different version of me, a younger version of me, would have probably been like, "You're paid to play basketball. You should go play basketball. All 82 count. This could cost you in the standings. Blah blah blah." As a father, I find it difficult to criticize somebody for trying to be a good father. I'm just not going to, Like I think LeBron's quote was "family over everything," and I don't. I find it hard to argue with somebody who says, you know what, I just want to be there for my son. Like I'm not going to question that. You run into these sometimes in sports where expected father will miss a game because they want to be there for the birth of their child, and that'll turn into a thing on talk radio where people are like, should you really? And it's like, yo, like, what are we arguing about? Somebody's trying to do what most of us would consider to be the right thing. Somebody's trying to do it, and now they're getting criticized for it. So yeah, if LeBron wants to be there for Bronny's first game, whenever that is, fine with me. You touched on USC as a slight disappointment. 5-2 right now. Opened with that nice victory over Kansas State, but Kansas State is now outside of the top 40 at KenPom. So USC still has 0 top 40 KenPom wins with losses to Oklahoma and UC Irvine. They started 21st at KenPom, now down to 31st, 33rd at Torvik as of this moment, if you remove preseason bias. So, yeah, a slight disappointment, nothing alarming there. But they have played the first 7 games and presumably will play the first 8 at least without not their most heralded freshman. That's Isaiah Collier, but one of their most heralded freshmen, and that would have been Bronny James. I guess my question is, I don't doubt that he'll help eventually. I am skeptical that he'll help immediately because my experience in this sport is when freshmen, unless they're just unbelievably physically overwhelming, talented, like you could drop them in at any point and they'd be ready to go. When you miss this much time, it becomes difficult to catch up. It doesn't mean that he won't play an important role at some point, but he's missed a significant amount of time of not just conditioning, but like actual practice stuff that is very important for first-year college basketball players. And that's why I would imagine it'll be a slow build to wherever this is going. Andy Enfield's and that staff, they're going to have to build toward it over several weeks and maybe even, a month or so.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that is. I mean, this is now that he's been cleared, it's developed into a wait and see story and one of intrigue in terms of when he debuts and then how impactful and effective he is the minutes he plays. I'll just remind our viewers and our listeners that Bronny James was expected to be, I think the absolute best case scenario for Bronny James going into the season, even if he had never had the heart issue, was that he would be the 3rd best player on the roster, clearly behind Isaiah Collier and Boogie Ellis. But in reality, when you look at how valuable Kobe Johnson is as a two-way player, DJ Rodman has had some good moments there. And even if, between Josh Morgan and Vince Iwuchukwu, like Bronny James just might wind up being, a key piece as a role player. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But just keep that in mind. Yes, we're leading the show with it on a Friday going into the weekend because the news did come out on Thursday night. And this will be a highly anticipated debut. But if he can step in and do a lot of the little things right, he can be the guy. He can be a piece. I frankly believe this, that can help USC to top 2 status in the Pac-12, right behind Arizona. But we'll wait and see on it. And just glad that he's been able to be cleared and return and playing college basketball. 3 months ago, 2 months ago, that was very, very much in question. And now it's tremendous to see that the family released a statement and he is good to go and can't wait to see whenever his debut is.